Well, good afternoon, everybody. I thank you all for calling in today and spending some time with us. My name is Keith Davis. I work with MRC out of New Jersey and California. Um, we are lucky today to have Yvonne Overmaat on to discuss some interactive play. Yvonne, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. So, real quick, everyone, Yvonne is the managing director of Yalp in the Netherlands and is the president of wholly owned subsidiary Yelp Incorporated. Yvonne is responsible for interactive play and sports equipment market globally. She began her career with Wolseley, which is now Ferguson in the United Kingdom. While at Wolseley, she held various roles within several of her subsidiaries, including Ferguson in Maryland and Wasco in Belgium and in the Netherlands. In 2010, back in the Netherlands, she started with Yalp, working in outside sales. She quickly rose through the ranks at Yalp, becoming part of the senior management team and now spearheading the growth in Americas. Along the way, she has become an expert in the play industry, speaking at conferences and appearing on national television programs, discussing the value of interactive play, the future of play, and using modern technology, which is what we'll talk about today, to draw children into the outdoors. She and her colleagues at Yelp are on a mission to revolutionize play as we know it. So when she's not out talking about playgrounds, and hopping back and forth across the Atlantic, she enjoys spending much time with her family. She has three daughters, and she keeps quite busy. So, Yvonne, if you would be so kind to go ahead and start. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Keith. That was quite the introduction. No pressure, right? So hello, everybody. My name is Yvonne Overmaat. I'm indeed the managing director of Yalp, which, by the way, is, if you read it backwards, play. So play in reverse. I am actually Dutch. I'm also currently in the Netherlands. It's 8 p.m. here right now, but I'm very happy to get this opportunity to talk to you today. What I kind of want to go through, of course, is the importance of outdoor play, but also the key principles of interactive play, because there are different levels of interactive play. I also want to talk to you about certain design principles, as well as give you an overview of all the products that we currently have. After which I'll show some case studies that we've done globally. So we have, let me start with the importance of play. Now, most of you are active in the play industry, so you already know the importance of play. But did you know that in Britain, 3 out of 4 kids play less outside than prison inmates? I thought that was pretty staggering, but that was the headline of an article in The Guardian based on the results of a new survey revealing the extent to which time playing in parks, woods, and fields has shrunk. A fifth of the children did not play outside at all on an average day, the poll found, mainly due to parents' fear, a lack of green space, but also the lure of digital technology. And there we go. It's kind of hard to imagine, but it's definitely not only the case in the UK. It's also definitely true in the US. Only 1 out of 3 American children are physically active every day. These are some stats that I found from the US Department of Health. And it's hard to imagine, but it's not only the children that play too much. Many of us can play and exercise more. I don't know if some of you have seen this picture before, but I always laugh at it when I see it, because this is a picture of people using an escalator to go into the gym. And not only can we work out more, most of us, including myself, spend way too much time behind screens. Partially because we live in a completely different world than our grandparents used to live in. Because we all know the world is changing rapidly. And this slide I actually stole from my colleague. He's always joking that back in the 1600s, we only needed about 5 minutes to go to the restroom. The Dutch are a little bit crazy, so this might be a weird comparison. But that time increased an awful lot by the time we took over cell phones into our restrooms. And we went through different eras: water power, steam power, electrification, the space age, and we now clearly live in a digital world. But the question that I kind of want to ask you, and I know it's in a webinar, it's hard, we don't see each other, but if you do have any questions, please just use the chat. I'll try to keep an eye out on it, and if I see questions there, then I'll address them. If I don't notice them, maybe Keith and Matt can help me sort of point them out for me. But the question is, even though we're now in such a changed world, do we also see enough change and innovation in the play industry? And I honestly don't think so. Maybe you disagree. We do increasingly see interactive play indoors. So I'm sure most of you have seen these types of activities at entertainment venues. I think most of you are actually looking at the screen. At many family entertainment centers, we can see equipment like this. I don't know if you've already seen it in supermarkets. This is actually an example right here in the Netherlands where during your shopping for your groceries, you can actually play an interactive game. Or one of my favorite indoor examples is the indoor squash or racquetball wall. Here you see a great example of gaming during physical ed training. But technology in outdoor play is much less available still. And then the question remains, do we even want kids to be exposed to technology when they are playing outdoors? You know, when we finally do get them off the couch, away from the game console, shouldn't they be playing with sand and water? And my answer is absolutely they should. I bet at least one of you can still feel their clothes dripping when you couldn't quite make it to the other side. I know this is a very Dutch scenery, but we all have experience like this from our childhood. The instant of a second when you realize you might not make it to the other side. So when I show people pictures like this, we're all amazed. I'm not sure you've all seen Johanna Gas before. She is a 92-year-old gymnast from Germany, still as of today doing routines on the parallel bar. But shouldn't we all play more? Now, I'm pretty sure you haven't seen this girl before. This is actually my daughter. I have, like Keith said, 3 little girls. This is the middle one, Chris. It's a picture I took about a year ago in a German zoo. And she had been dragging that stick around the zoo for a while when I got to the sea lion exhibit. And you can all guess what happened. She ran back and forth the glass while the sea lion followed her stick. Now, it must have gone on for 10 minutes or so, and the longer it lasted, the more kids with smiles on their faces joined. So we always say traditional play, natural play, interactive play. It doesn't really matter. It can all complement each other. Play is everywhere. So we always say use all opportunities you can to play. So then the question is, can we actually use today's technology to make playing outside as addictive as gaming? And I guess because of this webinar, you kind of already guessed. But yes, I think we can. And not just by adding screen time. Here you see a picture of what we refer to as our own Steve Jobs of play. He was rewarded with an award at this picture for over a decade of hard work. He was really a visionary. He actually left the company at the end of December, so we're going into a new era again. But he was definitely the type of entrepreneur that dared to follow a big dream. Because we faced a lot of obstacles, all the obstacles you could think of. Many people who first learn about interactive play, and some of you might think something along these lines right now, they usually think, well, will it work outside? You know, what if it rains? Or it is nice that it will hold up in a small town in Europe, but in my city, it will never hold up. Or it won't stay fun. You know, as soon as kids have figured out how to play certain games, the attention will be gone. It must be really expensive. So I hope during this seminar, I can give you a different perspective. But even though we have been developing interactive play for over a decade, you might have never heard about Yalp. And why is it actually that there are so few outdoor interactive playground suppliers? Well, of course, I won't be able to say why so few have embarked on this adventure. But what I do know from our experience is that it is definitely not easy to develop for outdoor use. It requires a huge amount of time, money, and dedication because it's not a quick win. And we always say that interactive play shouldn't just be about adding a blinking light. We don't just add a light because it looks nice. We actually only add it when it adds to the play value. So adding play value is one of our most important design principles. We want to have an impact. However, we do not only want to develop educational games, for example. A game has to be fun. That's the most important. It also needs to be easy to understand. I am very often asked, where is your instruction sign? How do kids know how to play this? And then I say, well, we don't have one. And then I get people that kind of look at me amazed, and I say, we don't have one because if we need one, we feel we haven't developed it well enough. With one press on the button, it should be easy enough for kids to figure out what they need to do. So technology brings a lot of opportunities, but it is quite hard to define what interactive play actually is. So in our view, interactive play is very different from traditional play, although you still have similar learnings, social play, taking turns, resolving conflicts. It's all the same. It's all about play. There is definitely an interaction between the product and the player. We feel that it adds to the fun if there is a little bit of a gaming element. We all know the excitement and the fun of getting to a new level when you're playing a computer game. And computer game and gaming itself is not only bad. There's a lot of fun and learning in it. We just want to combine the positives of gaming and combine it with being physically active outdoors. And we believe that interactive play should really also be about having variable content. So it shouldn't be the same all the time. It should evolve. There should be something new to do all the time. So there are different levels of interactive play. To us, it is more than simply adding technology to traditional equipment. Although, of course, it can absolutely be fun to generate music while you're swimming. This is an actual example of locations in both Israel and the Netherlands. So in the picture on the right, on the swing, if you swing together at the same time, you actually can change your music. And with the seesaw, when you're going up, a light is added, and whoever has the most lights wins. So of course it's fun to maybe add technology to traditional equipment, but you can do so much more than simply adding lights. There are even play sets already today that have integrated apps. So after playing a certain game, after obtaining a certain high score, you can claim it in the app. So imagine you just played an interactive soccer game, you're sitting at your couch. If you allow the app that goes with it to do so, you'll get a push message that someone has beaten your score. So the online connection allows for a whole range of possibilities, being able to remotely do settings, looking at play statistics, or adding games. Here you see an example of our online activity map. I'm actually looking at my chat. I see that Keith, is there something that you wanted to say? You said interactive fitness, Peloton, mirror, etc.
No, when you were talking before about interactive play, it's also now you've seen over the last 2 years move into the fitness world with Peloton and Mirror. These are all different types of interactive.
It's definitely something that is emerging. So on this page, you actually see an example of our activity map. This indicates all the interactive locations that we have worldwide. So when somebody is playing right this second, a location starts blinking on the live version of this map on our website. So our customers can actually log into a remote control system that we call My Yalp. And here you can do your own settings. So turn the volume on and off, determine the on and off times, or select your language. Or you could gather additional information on your playground, like user statistics, in play graphs and heat maps even, that show during which time of the day you get the most visitors. But it also allows us to do software maintenance remotely. So technology actually brings a whole lot of new opportunities, but it, however, also brings new challenges. All the developments in interactive play also mean that we have to look differently at playground safety. The ASTM that we all know was designed based on traditional playground equipment, and it doesn't currently take into account that playground equipment could have a dangerous effect on pacemakers, for example. Here you see EMC testing done on one of our interactive products. So we are essentially embarking in a whole new era. But what is the future of play? How do we reflect new generations' values? Can we actually use technology as a draw to bring people outdoors? Now, a couple months ago, our management team was given an assignment, and this was kind of a brainstorm session. So they said, if you want to be on the cover of a magazine, which magazine do you want it to be, and what do you want it to say? So this is something fictional, this is not real. But we thought, how cool would it be if the March 2020 issue of Discovery magazine would say, Improved Health by Yelp Technology? Now, obviously, this is more of a joke. I don't think we'll be playing soccer with robots anytime soon, nor do I think we should want to. But some of that is actually already happening. So, in several places in the world, we already do interactive play. This is an example in Sweden, as you can probably tell by the weather. And on the outside of this picture, you see the outline of what we call our interactive dance arch. This is a system that works with movement detection. And we have about 850 locations worldwide already. So that was a location in Sweden. But here you see a location in China where they're using one of our educational play sets. So I think in the last month, kids played over 17,000 hours on our equipment. So if you had to do that on your own, it would take you about 2 years, day and night. So that is all nice, but to play a lot doesn't necessarily mean that it's also better. So the important question is, are we actually adding to the play when integrating this technology? Now, this journey started a long time ago in about 2006. Our Steve Jobs of play, which obviously is a joke, Ben Admiraal, our former owner, he took over the company in 2000. But around 2006, he came across movement detection, and this was indoors. So you would wave your hand, and then a light would turn on. And Ben thought, we could really be onto something here. So we had a project. I don't know if some of you have seen, this was also back in 2006. It was a Volkswagen commercial. And in the video clip, you saw a Stockholm subway station where they transformed the escalators into a stairs. So while you would walk up the stairs, you would actually hear music playing. And then they did this whole research to see how many more percentage of people would actually use the stairs as opposed to the escalators if you were to make it more fun. Maybe some of you have seen the video, but the music organ you see here on the left kind of worked like that. So there was a camera right next to it on a large wall right beside it, and that faced this music organ. So when boys and girls would walk up and down the organ, you would actually hear music play. But of course, this wasn't very commercially viable because not in every playground do you have a large vertical wall standing right next to it. So he hired the guy in the middle who is still with us today. He did a great TED Talk. I would highly recommend you watching it. His name is Rob Tuitert. And he was hired as a grad student from one of our best technical universities. And he integrated that movement detection into what we now call our Dance Arch Sona. And the year after, he hired another grad student and we worked on a different project. Now, I know soccer is not as big in the US as it is in the Netherlands or in Europe, but I know it's very much growing in the US as well. I think it's the most popular or most fastly growing youth sport in the US also. But when you drive around in Dutch neighborhoods, oftentimes what you'll see is that children get a crayon and they create their own goal on the wall. And so Ben, our owner, thought, how cool would it be if that wall would actually talk back? If it would say, you're doing great, or a little bit more to the left. Would it then want to make you stay longer in the park or come back more often? So with that idea, our interactive ball wall that we call Sutu was created, and it consists of 16 polycarbonate panels that react on impact. So by the time you hit one of them, the LEDs around the panel react, and with that you can play a whole variety of games. So after a decade of development, we have 5 concepts right now. I always say 2 focus more on play, if you will, the arch and the play set on the right with the post, the blue pillars. 2 on sports, the ball wall and the court. And then the one in the middle, you probably start laughing when you see this, but it's a DJ booth designed for outdoor space. We had a lot of park and rec directors that came to us that said, can you guys please come up with something for the older kids to do? The 13 and 14-year-olds, the teens and tweens that are obviously way too cool to be on the slide anymore. And not all of them want to be shooting hoops, and not all of them want to be on a skate ramp. And so, what they all have in common at this age is that they are very much into music. They are searching for their identity. They want to express themselves, hang out with their friends. And so, we wanted to give them a positive teen hangout where they can do something creative with music. So that became our DJ booth that I'll tell a little bit more about later. So when people say, okay, nice overview, but I still don't really know what this does, and how do I know this will stay fun? It's interesting to look at this chart. So here you see pictures of one of the first arches that we did at an elementary school back in 2007, and the same location 10 years after. So this is actually still an existing location. So after 12 years, it's still operational. And you see the play stats in a graph going from 210 to 215. And if anything, play actually went up, probably because we've been adding new games. So there's something new to do all the time. So let me tell you a little bit more about the products itself. And Keith just asked me if I can spell the name of the gentleman that did the TED Talk, so we can look it up. Yeah, I can. It's a real Dutch name. His first name is Rob, very simple, R-O-B. His last name is Tuitert, which I'll actually put it in the chat. He is actually the brother of a Olympic gold medal speed skating champion. So it always helps if I press enter then as well, so you can actually see it. Okay. But I would highly recommend it. He's a great guy. There are several tutorials of different product videos on our YouTube channel, which is Yalp International as well. So you'll probably see more of him. The product that it all started with was the Sona, the big orange arch, which, by the way, doesn't have to be orange. And this was in 2006 when big shows like Dance Revolution and Idols were a very big thing. And dance isn't something that you typically see at a playground. However, it's something that, in general, both boys and girls like very much. And it's also the best form of physical literacy that you can have. So we really wanted to do something with it. And the arch, in my point, it's one of my favorites. What I like about it a lot is that it only requires a very small surface. All of our interactives, including the arch, the Sona, are ground level, so therefore very easily accessible, not only for people on mobility devices, but also for your grandparents, for example. And at first, people have no idea what to do. They look at this and they say, well, maybe it's a piece of art. But on top, it's about 12 feet high. There's a camera that registers movements on the floor below. So you need the game floor to go with this. And when you walk underneath this arch, the camera will detect you. By the way, we're not recording anyone. It works with movement pixels. It will detect you and it will say something. And it will say something different every time. An example could be that it says, hey, you want to play? Or it says, psst, press the button. Or it will giggle. Sometimes it will even fart. Anything to just grab people's attention and to let them know, hey, there's something going on here. Now, to the left of it, or to the right of it, actually, there is one button. It has LEDs, so it kind of sticks out. And I don't know about your children, but my girls, curious as they are absolutely going to press it. And this is the same for all of our interactives. All of them have one button. Once they press the button, they get a very short game explanation. And this could, for example, be freeze, which is the name of the game. And then it'll say, freeze when the music stops. So there's two speakers facing inward, so the sound doesn't carry too far. Music starts playing, children start dancing. Suddenly the music stops, and then the camera will say number 5 moved. So then whoever is on 5 goes out and they kind of play it like musical chairs, or they come up with their own rules. We don't want to structure it too much and leave room for free play. They can also play whoever then jumps on 5 first wins. But this is just one example of a game. There's probably about 25 plus games available for the Sona already. And what I like about it is that there's games for different age groups. So my 3-year-old really likes the toddler games. So an example of that would be Animal Quest. And the instruction that they'll get is find the monkey. And so when they then walk on the number 4 spot, they'll hear a bird chirping. So that's not where the monkey is hiding. There's also, we do theming through the year. So last year around Halloween, we came up with a game called the Moon Monster. And this is also for the little ones. So you'll hear scary music, and the arch will give the girls and boys instructions. So they'll say, be careful, tiptoe around, there's a monster lurking, now crawl on your knees. And before it shouts monster, the kids have to escape the game floor before the monster can grab them. But there's also games for the more older children, more educational games. So an example would be math. It'll say 6 plus 3. Now, when you jump on 9, the correct answer, you go up in level and therefore in difficulty. So you could also do what is the square root of 81. There is games where you can learn how to count to 10 in Chinese, games where you have to remember a certain sequence to break a code. So then it will say the code is 4, 1, 8, break the code. And then you have to step on those numbers in that order. And if you do it right, the sequence becomes longer. So now you have to work together. You remember the first 3 numbers, and then you remember the second 3, and we try and get to level 8. There's a whole bunch of games on here. In fact, we have even done games for the elderly. The lady that you see over here with the microphone is a former Olympic athlete, Olga. And she has actually done a specific game set for the elderly. So we even have 11 of these in retirement homes, not just used by the grandparents, but actually also for the residents themselves. There is dance battles on them where you do team green against team blue, and the camera actually decides which team has the best dance moves. Individual games, games you can play in a group, a whole bunch of different games. It consists of a steel structure with glass fiber reinforced polyester caps on the outside that do not need to be orange. The picture on the left is an actual location we did in Belgium, where it is a rainbow. And when it's not being used, and this is the same for all of our interactives, it goes in a sleep mode to conserve energy, although it only uses maximum 60 watts, which is comparable to a light bulb anyway. We even have a light set in it. This is not a render, this is an actual location in Shanghai. And a fun fact here was that the light set works with a sensor, but because of the lighting of the big skyscraper behind it, the arch wasn't able to tell whether it was day or night. So we had to change the sensitivity of the light sensor because it was blinking all the time. But I personally like this picture a lot because it's a very expensive piece of real estate right in the middle of Shanghai city. We do a lot of different languages as well. So if you have a more Spanish community or an Italian community, you can do different languages as well. You can also do custom. So here you see a couple examples. The one on the left is a Peter Rabbit theme that we did in the UK. The one in the middle is obviously Angry Birds. So instead of the dance battle team blue versus team green, it became the pigs versus the birds. And the one on the right was done by a family entertainment center. This is an indoor location. I would say 95% of our locations are outdoors, but we also have some indoors. And the owner of this facility actually redid all the audio samples in his own pirate voice. So that was kind of a fun custom touch. Please ask me any questions that you have. If you don't, I'm just going to go to the next product. And even if you do later, I can get back to it later. So the Mimo is our newest product, even though we've had that for 6 years now already as well. And the Mimo stands for memory movement. With the Arch, we could already do a couple educational games. So learn how to count to 10 in Chinese, do a math game, do a memory game. But with this, we wanted to take it to the next level because it's actually scientifically proven that your brain functions better when you're being physically active. So this is a system that consists of 7 pillars, 7 posts, and the top of the post has a polycarbonate screen, 360-degree screen with LEDs. And it also reacts on impact, so you can swipe it and touch it. The one in the middle is what we call the master post. That is also the post where you have, again, one button that you press to select a game. And again, here you have a lot of different games. So I'll give you a couple examples. On the Mimo, you can play memory as well, math games, and not just like the Arch, a simple addition, 3 plus 6 is 9. But with this one, because we can display symbols as well as letters and numbers, you can do a whole math curriculum. So you can do binary counting, Roman counting, even fractions, military time, percentages. Then there's even quizzes. So we have a partnership with Quest, which is a scientific magazine. They became one of our content partners. And the Mimo actually allows you to play quizzes. So the master post in the middle will ask you a question, and it'll say, for example, why does a hot air balloon rise? And then it's a multiple choice game. So 3 pillars will represent the A, B, and C answer. And so one of the posts on the left will say, well, it's A because hot air wants to go up. Another post will say, no, it's B. There's a jet engine in the balloon. And then you kind of select your answer in the color you play for. So you can even play with multiple teams. And you play a Trivial Pursuit. And we have different themes. So there is a history quiz, biology quiz, a science quiz. The educational possibilities of this product are pretty much endless. We have several at a variety of STEAM schools in different countries, one of them also in the US. The first Mimo that we installed in the US was in Oxnard, California, at the Rio del Sol school. And they have not only been using it during recess, but definitely also during classes. Somebody is asking, is there any weekly or monthly maintenance that needs to be done on products? No, not weekly or monthly. The way we work is there is the product, and then we work with a subscription. Now, typically, most of our customers don't want to be facing reoccurring costs. So what normally happens is that you buy the product and the subscription for 10 years in advance. Software-wise, there is a lot of maintenance, but nothing that you have to do yourself. That's something that we all arrange on the back end. So every night it runs updates, firmware updates, software updates. Usually we are already aware when a problem might occur before the customer even knows. To give you an example, the heads of the pillars of the Mimo of this product actually send a message to our CPU, the central processing unit, every 2 seconds. If it doesn't get a signal, we get a red flag in our system. So software-wise, that's all part of the remote control tool. It also prevents us from having to fly installers all over the world. Hardware-wise, there is not a lot of maintenance either. Why am I saying this? We do actually sell a lot of traditional equipment as well. In the Netherlands, we rep a company called Lapset, which is one of the largest European playground manufacturers. So we sell a lot of seesaws and swings and post and deck structures ourselves. The interactive equipment doesn't have any moving parts. So you do not, unlike a swing where you need to check the change, there's nothing that you have to check. Of course, it's always good to every year do a visual check. Are all the bolts still tight? Is there something off? But there's not any moving parts, so the hardware maintenance is minimal. Keith is also asking if the products are using cellular connections or that you need to have Wi-Fi. All of the products are connected to the internet. So we actually work with a 3G connection. There's a SIM card in it that we already ship in it from the Netherlands. So you do not need to worry about anything with an internet connection. They obviously also need to be powered. That can also be done in different ways. So you can either run power to the site, or we also have a solar option. So let me go on with the next product, the ball wall that I already spoke about briefly. So the entire idea behind this was what if the wall would talk back? Would it then be more fun? And yes, it is definitely more fun. So the way it works, 16 panels, and they're impact sensitive. So in this picture, you can kind of see somebody playing tennis. It is suitable for different sports. So you oftentimes see it with soccer pictures, but you can definitely also play it with handball, tennis, racquetball, volleyball. I always say any ball that is kind of round. So not, for example, an American football, because it goes off in a different direction and it kind of defeats the purpose of the game. You can play a whole lot of different games with this. Again, one button, and when you press it, you get a game explanation. So an example of a game could be Total Sutu being the name of the game, and then it says fill the entire wall. So you hit one square, it lights up. You hit another one, it lights up. However, if you hit a square that you've already hit before, you then have to start over. So it becomes a thing when you have 15 shots done and there's this one final shot left. If you miss it, that means you're at the playground for half an hour longer trying to redo it. But again, here there's a whole bunch of games. There's even a game that's called Speed Sutu. There's a radar module in here that detects the speed. So you have to hit it as fast as you can, and the miles per hour are actually projected on the wall itself, kind of like an alarm clock. And then we even have an app that goes with it where you can claim that score. So you can actually join the national or even the global competition if you wanted to. So if Keith goes back after playing and he hit 63 miles an hour with the Speed Sutu game, and I hit 65 after, Keith then gets a message saying, hey Keith, Yvonne just beat your score. So hopefully, competitive as Keith is, he will then want to go back to the playground and redo his score. We've done a lot of testing with this, vibration testing, temperature testing, impact testing, obviously. There is a great quality video on our YouTube channel. I would highly recommend everybody to watch it. Videos on webinar are not really going well, so we decided not to show any video. But the quality video on our YouTube channel is only 1.5 minutes, and it shows you some of the testing that we've done. Now with the ball wall, we even show which kind of athletic soccer skills you're practicing while you're playing certain games. Another video that I would recommend you to go see is a Fox Sports video. Our ball wall was featured at 2 seasons of the Saturday night soccer show on national television. And it has a very high entertainment value. And originally we considered this to be something that we designed for boys and girls aged 8 to 15. But in reality, this is very much something that adults enjoy as well. You see boys playing with their fathers, adults having a good time, and we saw that definitely when we had it for several episodes in Fox Sports. So here you see an example of the app that we have, and we're actually adding features as we speak. The same technology that we use for our interactive ball wall, we also use in a field. The ball wall, there is games that you can play with multiple players, but you do not play the wall with 20 people at the same time. So therefore we developed a court, and we actually developed that court with Mark Lammers, and he is actually a gold medal Olympic field hockey coach. I know when you guys say hockey, it's ice hockey, but we do actually a lot of field hockey. And this guy said, if you change the layout of a court, you also change the way kids play. Now, I don't know if some of you have kids that play soccer, but especially when they're younger and you're looking at a game, there is kind of the ball, and then there's a bundle of kids around the ball, kind of swarming back and forth across the field. And he said you kind of prevent that if you have a smaller field. So instead of a rectangle, why not do a square? And instead of having your regular 2 goals, do 4 instead. The game becomes a lot more dynamic. It's not only more fun, but it's also very good for skills practice, because suddenly you have a lot more decisions you need to be making. There's a lot more ball contact. It's great for your Indian dribble, your split vision, keeping your eye on the ball and at the same time determining which ball you're going to go after. And this is something that you can achieve with a regular setup. However, when you bring in technology, it becomes way more fun. So 4 goals, 4 teams. Let's say that I'm playing on the blue team. And that means that the goal behind me has blue LEDs. I'm playing a game defending from 3 different sides. It's already pretty dynamic because I have to be really careful which goal to go after. And suddenly, 2 minutes into the game, a voice suddenly says, switch. And I look behind me, and my goal is now not blue anymore. The blue LEDs have now switched to one of the other goals. So I have to run to the other side of the field to continue defending my blue team over there. So there's a little bit of luck involved. So not always necessarily the best player wins. You really have to be proactive too. So there's always a couple boys and girls that are kind of playing more defensive. They stay in front of their goal and they're not going anywhere. But when their goal changes, they kind of have to. So it comes in different sizes. You can do this 20 by 20, 30 by 30, 40 by 40 foot. We have 2 currently in the US, so not that many yet. There is one currently being installed in Illinois, and then we've got one at the Rosemary School in the Bay Area in California. You do not have to do this with our fencing. You can also do your own fencing. And of course, here you don't see an entrance, but of course for ADA accessibility, we have an offset entrance, so even people in mobility devices can actually enter the court. Could we use this for futsal too? Absolutely. I've even heard people talk about Gaga as well. Somebody said it's almost like a Gaga court on steroids. I think it's way better even than Gaga, but of course you can play this for a lot of different opportunities, and it doesn't have to be hockey, field hockey, or soccer. You can do it with any a ball you want. It's actually great for tennis court renovations, repurposing. So we've done one, and I'll show it to you a little later in the presentation, where on the side of one former tennis court, we've done one of those square interactive courts, a ball wall, and a small basketball pitch. So now at the size of one tennis court, you suddenly have 3 different offerings. So you can accommodate 3 different age groups or 3 different birthday parties. There's a whole bunch of games here as well. So the Switch game example that I just mentioned is just one of them. There's also a game that's called Red Against Green. So you have 2 green goals and 2 red goals. And if you're on the red team and you score on a green goal, it changes color. And so now you have 3 red goals and you have to conquer the entire court in your color. There is games where you have kind of 4 lives, and every time your goal is being hit, one of your corners that is lit up, the light is turned off. So now essentially you have 3 lives left. I mean, there's a whole bunch of games here. And if you want to know more about it, exactly what you can do, if you go to store.yalp.com, there's an overview of all the games we have per product. There's a description of how it works. And in a lot of cases, there's even a video where you can see how you play a certain game. So the last product I want to quickly tell you about before going into some of the case studies is our DJ booth. Remember I was saying we wanted to create a positive teen hangout to give something creative to do to the teens. They're all very much into music. And so the phono is what we call it, consists of a steel table with a stainless steel interface. And you have 2 hotspots, if you will, where you can place your own cell phone. Of course, you do not need a cell phone. It also has some pre-installed beats on there. So even if you do not have a phone, you can still participate. However, the most fun is when you do use your own cell phone, because whatever music we put on there is never somebody's taste or it's not up to date. And so you can mix Beethoven through Armin van Buuren. And it's not a professional DJ set, but there's a lot of DJ functionalities, so you can actually have the feeling of becoming a real DJ outdoors. So the way it works is actually with magnetic induction. There's no Bluetooth connection or anything. You put your phone on one of the 2 hotspots, and instantly the sound is amplified. So now with your own music, you can do DJ effects. There is you can crush, scratch, pitch. There is a flanger, delay, a crossfader, so you can mix 2 songs together. You can even record loops. So you can record a 50-second loop, cut them in half, mix them through the other song. I mean, it has a lot of different functionalities. Of course, there is a maximum to how much you can actually turn the volume up. This is not meant to be used with external speakers. We do not want this to be used for big events. This is really for a smaller group of teens hanging out. I got the question, where's the speaker? The speaker is actually on the side of the stainless steel interface. So on the inside of the concrete, facing inward so that the sound doesn't carry too far. I'm going to see if I have a picture of the speakers somewhere where you can see it better. I'll point them out later. This is exactly the type of crowd that you want to design this for. So we have a version with steel tubes that they can kind of sit on and relax. And then we also got a more contemporary version with wood. I think this looks way more architectural. And believe it or not, this picture was taken on church property. So this DJ set was purchased by the church because they wanted to expose the church more to the teenagers in the neighborhood and invite them in. And so the church is right next to it. So what are the key assets of our interactives? I think one of the great things is that they're very inclusive. There are no physical barriers or obstacles. It's all ground level. You really play with everybody else. So even if you would be in a mobility device, you're playing also with the children who are not. You do not have to be in the wheelchair swing, so to say. Everybody plays together on the same equipment. And it also has opportunities that traditional equipment really cannot offer. I wanted to show you this example. This is a design that we're currently doing for a playground called Levi's Adventure Trail in Missouri. And this playground was designed in honor for a 3.5-year-old boy, Levi, who deceased for unexpected reason overnight. And we're now working with friends of the family who are trying to take audio samples from former videos, and that way they want to bring Levi's voice back onto the playground. So we are working with them to incorporate his voice in our audio samples.
Oh, look at that fucking playground. Shit.
I think somebody is not muted, but
Wow.
this is, and then we did a custom floor. So Levi was very fond of superheroes. And so him, his sister, and his mom and dad all are now superheroes on this playground. And so the symbols of the objects that belong to the superheroes are also in the custom floor behind it. So the number 9 is a saw that resembles the dad. The books are for his sister. He was very fond of lightning, and so that's why there's a blizzard in the middle. But that's all things that we can do that is harder with traditional equipment. This is a picture of a children's hospital in the Netherlands that was actually done on a rooftop. So this is a 4-story building, hence the cage that we built around it. And this is a very nice example of a playground in Kansas, Salina, Kansas, near a children's hospital also, Olivia's Playground, that we opened in the summer last year near Salina Regional Health Center. Besides it being very well for inclusive play, it is also very fun to watch. I'm getting a question from Bob that says, what is required for site prep prior to installation? And what type of material goes under it? Very good question, Bob. Thank you. The arch is the only interactive that needs a game floor to go with it. So if you're playing the math game, you and the user and the camera needs to know where the number 9 is for the game to function. So with the arch, there you need to have the game floor. Now, typically we supply it with an artificial turf. However, you do not have to use the artificial turf. One of the schools in the Campbell area, in the Bay Area in California, they wanted to have it on asphalt. And so they kind of used one of those seal coats on asphalt. Now, this works better in certain states, depending on the weather, than in other states. I wouldn't recommend it in Massachusetts because of the weather, I guess. But there's different ways to do it. We have locations that have done the game floor in Port in Place also. With And you can customize it within certain parameters. So if you wanted to do something custom, let us know what you want to do, and then we can work with you. Because of course, for the calibration of the camera to work, certain symbols need to be in certain positions. But within those parameters, you can do a whole lot of customization. For all the other interactives, you do not need to do a specific surface, so you can do any surface you would like.
We just need to be flat, correct?
Yes, I mean it always helps if you do not have an obstacle. We want the surface to be flush with the surroundings. Yes. Let me know if that answers your question, Bob, and if not, I can elaborate a little bit more later on. So they're very fun to watch. I already explained the Fox Sport example, but it's also family fun. It's really 3-generational play. I explain a little bit about the retirement homes, teenagers. A grandmother might enjoy playing a memory game on the arch, but she might not go into a big rope structure because she might be afraid to break a hip. So it's definitely something that is for all ages. Also, because of the variety of the games, there's something there for everyone. And here you see an example actually of one of those retirement homes. Besides family fun, it's really addictive. It's not the same all the time. There's different levels. There's competitions that you can join to try and beat your own score or the score of others. And it's very safe play. Safety first is always one of those buzzwords. Of course, everything has to be safe. But it's interesting to know that we've had 0 accidents reports over the last decade since the first were installed in 2006. And we currently already have 850 worldwide. They're not climbable. There's no falling height. There's no impact attenuated surfaces required. It's also highly intensive. I don't know if you're familiar with MET values, but MET stands for the metabolic equivalent, kind of the unit of measure that kind of measures how intensely you're moving. And some of the games on our arch and court, you're playing more intense than when you are playing competitive basketball or soccer. Super easy to understand. So press the button once, push and play, no instruction sign. They're always up to date. So we actually come up with new games every year. So every year there's something new to do. Software updates are done automatically overnight. You can look at play statistics. And they're designed for public outdoor use. They're heavily tested. Here you see an example of an impact test that we did on one of the panels of our ball wall. So this is a 50-pound weight that they dropped from 3 feet high over 10,000 times. It's also a test that you can see in the quality video that I referred to earlier. So here you can see some of the testing that we're doing, some of the awards that we've won. A question that I always say is also, does it work in every climate? Not in every climate. I mean, it's probably not the best to put in the middle of the Sahara. We work with the Guys and Copper climate certification, but for the entire US, you're fine. So it also works in the colder climate, Boston area, where it gets very, very cold. Our mother company is actually based out of Rovaniemi, which is a Finnish city north of the Arctic Circle. And we've placed many of them indoors as well. Keith says, do you see the interactive used at camps? I'm assuming you use summer camps or campgrounds. Yes, absolutely. We have placed the majority in for Park and Rec, public parks, schools, but then the entire leisure segment, hospitality, retail, campgrounds, is a very big part as well. The first ball wall that we installed in the US was actually at a soccer pitch in downtown Houston, owned by Brian Ching, a former MLS player. And I can definitely see this working at campgrounds. So I wanted to dive in a little bit more in educational play examples. I'll go a little bit quicker so that we have some time for questions. It was proven that you actually absorb information better when you're physically active. A fun fact is that in Finland, where our mother company is based, Finnish law actually mandates 15 minutes of play for every 45 minutes of instruction. So they are very much about play. This is a site that you see in Houston, and Bob, here you see that they've done a different turf. So this was a more Australian themed site in Texas. And so we worked with a local artist that also did the paintings on the murals that you see behind it. And we kind of incorporated that theme in the surface. And this site is actually also used by homeschool children. And so they play games like rhyme, jump on the number that rhymes with life. This is the site, and here you can see that the game floor was done on asphalt of the Campbell School of Innovation, and you see a heat map, so we can actually tell what times during the day it's being played. And after installation, suddenly the play stats dropped. This was mid-November. So originally I thought this is because the school is closed for Thanksgiving, but then it kind of kept on. And what happened mid-November is I called the superintendent and I said, well, why are your play stats dropping? Are the children not enjoying it? Should we put on different games? And he said, well, how do you know? And I said, well, we are able to tell by the play statistics. And he said, well, you're right. We've actually been keeping the children inside because of the wildfires. And right after the rain, 2 weeks later, we could see play pick back up. So we do not only do math, but we really try to teach the core subjects and the foundational principles. So we do letters, putting the letters of the alphabet in the right order. There's spelling bee games. So with the Mimo, we can actually do quite a lot. I was looking at one of the play talks at the Consumer Electronics Show, a family tech summit, and it's actually available on YouTube as well, but these industry experts were talking about how STEM should be more appealing and approachable. And they said having a physical product actually activates different parts of the mind. And they said having a physical product in neighborhoods actually allows you to bring the STEM experience to children of all walks of life. Here you see an example of how a math equation looks like. And this is a picture of the site that I told you about in Oxnard, California. So here you can also see, Bob, that we did a completely different service again. The architect wanted us to incorporate the red and orange color that he also had in the building. But this was also a site that was very important for the Native Americans. And so they wanted a river with Native American canoes and the wind directions on it as well. And this is the kids playing a certain game during recess. This is an overview of some of the math options that we have. So as you can see, I can do a whole webinar on just the curriculum itself, which I won't do. But here you see the play statistics of the Rio del Sol school. And the orange circles, where you see a flat line, those actually represent the weekends. So during the school days, Monday to Friday, on average, they play between 3 to 4 hours, which I think is quite a lot for a school. So some example of adding social content, there is a Boolean quiz on it, a sports quiz. And of course, because we have the framework there, we could also do custom quizzes. So this is a picture of a science center in Denmark on a rooftop, where for this specific science center, we did a custom quiz. So we made 500 questions for them, and they related to the subjects that they showed inside of their exhibits. So educationally, there's a lot of opportunities there. Also for athletic skills development, we're working with our partner in China and Adidas actually. We have several ball walls at the Adidas flagship stores. And with both of those partners, we're looking into athletic skill developments. So we want to go towards where our users can actually decide which parameters they want to choose. So let's say they want to do target practice. They can say, okay, I want a 60-second game with green LEDs with moving targets on the upper row, moving from left to right in 3 seconds. So that's a pretty detailed example, but that's the way that we're evolving right now, is that users will have more options to decide the parameters of the game themselves. So I wanted to share what we call the Center Parcs example with you. Center Parcs is a 5-star family resort in Europe, and they wanted to do something for the teens. So on 6 of their locations, they put both a ball wall and a DJ booth. And after a year, they came back and we kind of evaluated with their management team. And of course, they were already able to see the play stats, which were awesome, on average 6 hours almost a day. But what they were really amazed was this slide. Now, this is actually a slide that we made in 2 minutes, pulling it off all the social media channels, Facebook and Insta. And these are all their customers talking about their parks. Hey, I'm at Center Parcs and I've seen this great ball wall or DJ booth here. So they got a lot of free publicity. And I don't think this is necessarily only the case for a family resort or a retail park, but that could definitely also be true for a public playground, a destination playground. So there's a lot of design possibilities. If you go to our website, yalp.com, there's over 400 design pictures of existing sites that are there to kind of inspire you. We can do different logos. This is an example for the YMCA, or the Y, I should now say. You could do an all interactive playground, kind of like a playground of the future. This is one that we did for Decathlon, which is a sporting goods chain in Europe. And so the top view of this running track is actually supposed to be a sports shoe. And you can tell by playing with different colors, but also materials, that you can have a different view. Obviously, this is a more transparent fence and fits more in a natural environment. So based on the look that you want to go for, there's a whole lot you can do. And actually, I have a question to all of you. I would want to ask all of you to think outside the box. This is an example of a teen hangout right in front of a central train station, which the city would never ever put traditional equipment right here. The same goes for this location. This is right in front of the city hall on a town square. This is actually on top of a parking garage. And the architect would never put a post on deck here. This is more of an informal play space, high visibility, a place where design is very important. And I promised you at the beginning of the presentation that I would show you the tennis court renovation also. Here you see an example of a location where there used to be 2 tennis courts, and after we renovated one and we put an interactive court, and in the middle you're looking at the back of the interactive ball wall, and at the end we did a small basketball court. So suddenly you have a much bigger offering at the same site, or maybe even put one near a splash park. And in the end, I always say it doesn't have to be one or the other. So it doesn't have to be traditional play or interactive play. This is an excellent example of a site where we've combined the two. A traditional custom castle, and in the middle you'll see our interactive dance arch sauna, which obviously was customized also. So I hope I kind of gave you a wealth of information, and I'm sure you have lots and lots of questions. I hope you are excited. I think we have a little bit time for questions. I know that Matt Miller, the marketing manager from MRC, will also be sending out some links to videos. I can also share the presentation with you. And of course, the reps from MRC can always follow up to answer any questions you might have as well. Are there any questions at this time?
So, Yvonne, what do you think the most popular product that you have? I know that they all appeal to different. What would you say the most popular one would be?
Well, the one that we've sold the most of is definitely the arch and the ball wall, but it's not a completely fair comparison because we've had those 2 products for the longest as well, for over 12 years. Now, the DJ booth is more of a niche product. You know, you're not going to put a DJ booth in every playground that you do. So I think the sauna is the most versatile. But the Mimo, with all the educational possibilities, is definitely catching up quick.
Okay. I had an architect ask me if they could use, there's a street light nearby. Can they use the electricity from the street light, or do they need to run a different line?
Well, what we always recommend is that at least they're able to switch the interactive on and off without making sure the half of the city is without light. But sometimes you have to reboot an interactive, and then it's easy if you're able to turn it on and off without maybe disturbing too many other things. So depending on how the electrician wants to do that, it's definitely possible. We've had sites that used street light electricity before, and if it's all too complicated, solar is always a good option as well.
And solar is available for all the products, correct?
Yes, it is.
And is there anything that has to be done maintenance-wise to the solar panel?
Yeah, the solar panel obviously runs on batteries, and batteries have about a lifespan of 5 years. So after 5 years, you do need to replace the battery.
Okay, well, that's not bad.
No, I don't. I don't think so. Any questions from some of the other people that have been attending?
We might have a lot on mute, but people could type in.
Yes, Linda also asked if I can send the rendering of the tennis court renovation. Absolutely.
Yeah, and like you said, Yvonne, Matt will be sending out videos and information on everything that you talked about. So the videos that we didn't want to play in the presentation here, just to make it run smoother, all those for each product will be going out.
Yeah. Well, please feel free to reach out to me as well. All of my contact info is pretty much everywhere online, and there's many people at MRC who can help you. So
yeah, and we'll send out the contact information too. That's a good idea.
Okay.
Just in case of question. But I thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a pleasure, even though it's always hard to talk at a wall.
Hey, well, you did a very good job talking at a wall. So thank you so much, and I will talk to you shortly.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you all.
Thank you all. Thank you, guys.